Aquí vamos a hablar de agricultura ecológica y regenerativa en la práctica. Esta sesión la va a moderar Gonzalo Palomo, que ya está aquí, bienvenido. Gonzalo Palomo es investigador en Funpasos y en la Universidad de Extremadura, fundador de Belaki Solutions, consultor y formador especializado en salud animal y agricultura ecológica. Anteriormente fue veterinario microbiólogo y también es el presidente de SEAE, de la Sociedad Española de Agricultura Ecológica. Así que nada, ya le cedo la palabra para que también pues presente a Eva, Félix y a Eduardo, que ya están por aquí, creo. Nos falta Eva, que ya está viniendo. Y pues nada, os dejo con ellos para que veamos un poco también cómo es todo este tema en la práctica. Muchas gracias.
Buenos días. Good morning. Buongiorno. Buonasera. Eso es por la tarde. Bueno, ahora creo que el idioma oficial será el español de esta mesa. ¿Sí? Hola, Eva. Bueno, pues muchas gracias por la presentación, la invitación, por la asistencia. Vengo un poco volado porque he atendido las ovejas esta mañana como he podido. He atravesado medio de lo que era el reino de León y prácticamente me he tirado el coche para llegar aquí, ¿vale? Así que muchas gracias a la anterior mesa por haberse retrasado. Me ha permitido prepararme las preguntas de la sesión. Entonces, contamos con tres ponentes ahora, ¿vale? Que nos van a aterrizar en lo que es la realidad de la agricultura, la ganadería ecológica y regenerativa de básicamente la meseta, ¿vale? Porque yo, por lo que he leído, los tres, Eva también, os ubicáis en la meseta. Empezando por Eva Tocino, ella es agricultura y ganadera, llega a consumidor final con su propia marca, vacuno es lo que comercializa, la marca Saboreando, ¿vale? Luego pasaremos, Saboreando y disfrutando, las dos cosas, ¿vale? También hacéis agroturismo, entonces. Lo vais a hacer. El nombre ya lo apunta. Luego Félix del Villar, aquí a mi izquierda, ¿vale? Que lleva 20 años practicando agricultura de conservación, últimamente también regenerativa, básicamente con agricultura, también algo de ganadería. Y por último Eduardo García, que viene desde La Milana, en Soria, 40 años de experiencia como agricultor cerealista, que ha practicado con la siembra directa, que está certificado en ecológico desde los últimos 5 años, y que maneja con su familia pues unas 200 y pico hectáreas ahí en Soria. Entonces yo creo que para la gente que he visto caras curtidas por el sol, también en el auditorio, ¿vale? No solo rostros pálidos de estar delante de un ordenador, espero que esta sesión sea interesante, ¿vale? Esa es vuestra responsabilidad, ¿vale? Ahora tenéis que hablar para la gente que tiene la cara curtida por el sol. Entonces os voy a hacer 4 preguntas que están muy relacionadas con vuestra trayectoria y también marcando ahí un poco pues los puntos críticos en el proceso de ahondar en lo desconocido, que es muchas veces el innovar, ¿no? Y luego por último terminaremos con algo más dinámico también con el público sobre los retos actuales y futuros de la agricultura ecológica y regenerativa, ¿vale? Entonces, si os parece, os lanzo las 4 preguntas a la vez para que las vayáis pensando y os voy a dar el turno de palabra. Vais a intervenir 5 o 6 minutos cada uno, o sea que no os hago bien, no tenéis que preparar un speech aquí de la hostia. Y después haremos una segunda ronda dentro de la propia mesa, si queréis completar algo, y ya pasaríamos a esto último que hemos hablado de los retos presentes y futuros, también un poco más interactivo con la mesa. ¿Os parece bien también a vosotros o qué? Muy bien. Molt bé. ¿Tiene presentación? Vale. ¿Eso es? ¿Quién tiene presentación? Tú tienes presentación, vale. Bueno, la presentación la habrás preparado tal, pero a ver si sobre las imágenes que nos van a mostrar, ¿vale? Nos puedes contestar las preguntas de ¿por qué agricultura ecológica y o regenerativa? O sea, ¿por qué tomaste esa decisión en su día? ¿Vale? También, si tuvieses que volver a empezar el camino, ¿no? Si hoy tomaras esa decisión, ¿qué cosas cambiarías? ¿Vale? O sea, qué cosas, no que te arrepientes, sino dices, bueno, esto
it's not that you regret anything necessarily, but what would you change of the things you've been doing? And what have you gotten the most satisfaction about along these years? So your successes, what you consider your successes to be, and last but not least, any recommendation. Would you recommend somebody who is going to start their transition process to organic and regenerative farming? I'll say it again. Why, if you were to restart, succeed, and recommendation or advice? You okay with it? Okay, please, Eva, go ahead.
Buenos días a todos. No sé si se oye. Bueno, yo venía, me dijeron, tienes que...
Thank you very much, everyone. People told me that I had to speak to you about my background and my experience. I started about 10 days back. I'm mostly a livestock farmer, cattle raiser. I started back in 2015 with 17 cows. I don't come from a livestock background. We never did that. I never did that before. 2015, I settled in a small village, and I decided to start learning, and I keep learning every single day. I live in a small hamlet in the province of Salamanca, about 120 kilometers south of here. That's what we call a dehesa. And we do 35 hectares of crop. It's mostly foraging for the cattle. I bought 30 more cows in 2016, and also they are mountain cows actually. Why? Because they're more rustic, way more rustic, stronger, sturdier. They come from Spain. It's a Spanish race, and they can profit from all type of pasture lands. In 2013, if we heard correctly, we didn't hear the date. We started to go organic. We don't treat the pasture land at all, the grasslands at all. We don't use input for that. And we started to get organic certified for the cattle because economy-wise, using input is no good. Sorry, the farming, we were certified organic in the crops, because the inputs were too expensive, way too expensive. So we decided to go organic after having trained myself with the SEAE, with some people who are present here. They taught me how to better manage the soil and to progressively and do the take the different steps, even administration-wise. Can you say the second question? Yes, if I were to start again, well, I would have done it before. Lost many years. The change to organic farming was not very difficult for us because we do forage crops. And I cut them while they're green, so it's good for eliminating the adventitious plants, the weeds. And we started to seed rye a few years back as well, and also legumes in order to fix nitrogen. The most satisfactory, the most successful, I still have the same crop volume. It has maybe even improved, and given the race in cost of input that has taken on during the past few years, I think that the profitability of our farm is way higher, so I'm really, really happy, economy-wise as well, to have gone organic. Last but not least, I want to foster my cattle ranching by doing direct selling. The quality of our meat is exceptional. We feed our cattle with their own forage, and actually we do help the calves with organic feed, but we use organic fodder, and the calves, or whatever you want to call them, they have some fodder, some feed in the countryside, and then we take them over to another place where I have the more intensive calves, and then we take them to the slaughterhouse after they've been I have a very high quality produce. We do the whole cycle. We have the fodder, we have the feed, we produce it, and we do our own fattening. It's a bad thing because we do have some slaughterhouses in the province of Salamanca, but we don't have any place, any cutting or quartering certified place, and that's our problem. So far we haven't been able to organically certify it. I've been here at some trade shows, fair shows, and I created my own brand, Saboreando, disfrutando. It means tasting and enjoying. We sell meat every month. We slaughter a cow every month, and we sell all over the Spanish Peninsula. A recommendation, yes, get good training. It's not just about cutting or stopping the herbicides and the poisons. You really need to get training. You really need to see how your soil is structured, what you have there. I know that a lot of farmers who've been farming all of their lives and they don't even have an analysis. They haven't asked for an analysis of their own soils. I think you have to be professional and well trained. Thank you very much.
Seguimos con Félix, si os parece.
Let's go on with Félix, if you agree.
Bueno, mi nombre es Félix del Villar.
Félix del Villar. I am a farmer, a livestock farmer. I am an economist as for training, but a professional farmer for many years now. I have about 450 hectares, which I rent partly, and with I have about 90 reproductive mothers. It might change over time, but it's about that. I have non-irrigated croplands and herbaceous and mostly legumes, alfalfa, and also forest crops such as almond trees. And because where I am, in Rueda, we also have a vineyard. So, first I'll state my goals. Since the very inception of my work as a professional farmer, I am focused on improving our soil conditions. Our soils are very poor, with very, they're frank sandy, and we've had about 300 millimeters of rain annually, so very poor soils, very low organic content in the soils, and very low pluviosity or rainfall. And I want to regenerate my soils. That's why I went into organic and regenerative. How do I do it? Through direct seeding and rotational husbandry. How to redo that? Well, there are very many systems. Rotations is a very heterogeneous technique. Maybe for agricultural farming, that's a little bit more standard, but for husbandry, you have very many systems. You have to adapt to your soils, to your social and economic reality, to your weather, etc. Adaptation is paramount. And once I've given you my context, I'm going to answer. Why regenerative farming? In my case, I'll say that I have several different practices. I've been doing conservation agriculture for very many years, and that's mostly direct seeding or sowing. In most of my surface, but about 80 hectares, for 80 hectares I do regenerative hectares. I agree with most of what Jürgen has been saying here regarding regenerative farming. I think there is a huge cooptation by the great multinationals, by the great corporations. If you do regenerative farming by using synthetic and fossil inputs, well, that's not regenerative. That's called conservation agriculture. That exists. It's been going on. I've been doing it for many years, but it's not regenerative farming. Big agro corporations forget about the health of the people, of the animals, and of the soil, actually, by focusing on the soil. These big corporations do that. The regenerative farming that I practice is being carried out by doing direct sowing, direct seeding. I totally do away with the GMOs, that's the easiest in Spain, is it? And I do away with synthetic pesticides and inputs. I substitute all of those by animals, by cows. I don't use herbicides or fungicides because I don't need them. I don't use chemical fertilizers because I do not need them. I substitute all of those for cows and for good management, or by cows and by good management. Without that, it's like having a tractor without having a key to start it. What would you change? I'm not sure what I would change about myself, about my practices. It's hard for me to answer that because I change every day. I even change my ideas on a daily basis. So it'd be hard for me. I think I change everything and nothing in reality. I believe that every road that you take, every turn of the road is part of your continuous learning. By learning on your soils and exchanging with other people, you go on. So I would change everything and nothing. What's been the most satisfactory? I think, I'm very clear about this one. It's my own personal satisfaction. When you realize that what you are doing can actually change, can have an influence on changing what the other people are doing, that's really satisfactory. Recommendations on my part? Well, I think that the main recommendation that I have, and I agree with Eva mostly, for a farmer that is in transition, or for any farmer, formation and information are key. The primary sector is lacking information, is lacking training. We are too comfortable about things. Ever since the Green Revolution started, Norman Borlaug came about, initiated that. He was a great thinker, but he taught us that every problem has a solution and a recipe for that. So we, farmers, believe that guy, and whenever we have to face a problem, we call a technician who doesn't know us, who doesn't know our soil, doesn't know what we really wish for, and he gives us a standard solution. That would be the most convenient solution, but maybe not for you. It's the most convenient solution for him or for her. There is a great lack of independent technicians, so the technician will recommend to you his recipe for his magical potion, his magical product, that is maybe completely out of context in your own reality as a farmer. So my recommendations would be training, information, and be curious about things.
Eduardo, could you repeat? Eduardo? Good morning. I'm Eduardo García. I'm from Soria, from a small town which is called Milana. That's where our family has lived for ages. And we have about 200 hectares, but divided over different farms. So they're 5, 10, 15, 20 hectares large, and that's why management is not always easy, because it's so diverse. My life, I've been working in agriculture, I've been working the land, and I've been changing until about 2000, when I started direct seeding. And it went quite well. It's really easy to do until you start thinking, and you think this goes wrong, that goes wrong. And in about 2014, I started contacting people who practice organic, and I was lucky to know a crazy Brazilian professor, and then I started organic agriculture, but always trying to stick to direct seeding, because it's fantastic for the soil. It's much better than plowing. So bit by bit, we were wrong many times. So and now we're getting quite nice results, financially speaking. There's still some problems, and we don't use any fertilizers, not organic, nothing, because we are certified. I've brought some pictures for you. You can see them here. And I will answer the question about satisfaction. This is last Monday. In our region, from about the 15th of May, we didn't have any rain. So, and we generate about 16 tons of fodder, dry fodder. And this is without any rain. So we have vegetable covering. So what you can see here on the photo is the types of plants, so legumes, clovers. We also have spelt. So you can see the legumes. What we aim to do here is to go back to direct seeding to try and control those plants. Well, I didn't tell you that we're doing fodder. We're trying to control the plants that we don't want there, gramíneas, for example. And what we achieve there is clover, for example, or other types of plants that we didn't actually sow. But we try to keep the autochthonous vegetation. And that's why we're always in spring. That's at least our aim, our goal. So it's incredibly satisfactory. I don't know if you've seen any farms around here in Zamora who are that green as, and right in the middle of summer in Castile, with those incredibly hot summers that we have here, we are still green, and that's very satisfactory. So our goals, our objectives is to sow wheat, so some for fodder. We also tried with other legumes, but we have some problems with blossoming because it's so hot in June. It doesn't really work. They say there are products you could use, but we don't really want to use them. So for spelt, it's easy. Sunflowers, good. The only thing we'd like to do is a quick plow, because we see that there might be some problems in the future, but we try not to. And we'd like to not touch the soil. And all of a sudden, those unwanted weeds actually disappear. I don't know how it works. But they disappear. It's like a cycle. Cycle's gone, and then there's the cycle of a lot of problems, and then the next one, next season, everything has resolved itself on its own. Others may study those, but I won't go into that. Why do I farm organically? Because of the problems I could foresee with the industrial agriculture. What would I change? Every day I switch 180 degrees from black to white, from dark to light. I don't know, I couldn't tell you what I would actually change. Recommendation. We came to play. You have to play around, you have to try things, you have to see what works. Not betting on your own economy, on your own finances, but you have to try. You have to see what happens. You have to keep learning. And in the end, this is the result. We're starting now with trees, olive trees, for example. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I think that was a very short presentation, but that's mine. Exactly, we did them all within this set time. So we'll go to the other end of the... We'll actually give our points of view about the biggest challenge that we face in agriculture and livestock holding, both now and in the future. In general. I think the biggest challenge is generational. The translator can't really hear if she's not speaking into the microphone. Not many people want to start in agriculture. And I think that that would be the biggest problem in the fields. We have to incentivize and see that future generations also are interested in what we do. We do things a bit different. When I started 10 years ago, people said I was crazy, it would never work. But now, 10 years later, we're still here, going strong, and I hope we can keep changing things. Thank you. I agree that the future will be the biggest challenge. Future of agriculture in Europe, not only Spain, but in Europe, is quite bleak. We have sold ourselves, we have given ourselves away to a naive world where we believe, well, society, that food comes from the supermarket, and that's something we'll be paying over the next 50 years. We'll be paying the price because there are no young people that like to get involved, because young people don't see a financial gain, or they don't see how they can earn their wages or a way of life, and they don't see it clearly. We are always complaining, we're demonstrating, we're always complaining about how bad everything is going, and we're right, but we have to find the solution instead of just sitting there and complaining. And also, in reality, there's quite a large social change. I don't know if I used the word correctly, but I think that we know what we mean, that we look at it like there's only one possible future. And on social media, for example, young people see that image is more important, presence, and that all goes against our way of life as farmers and stockholders, and that's not very attractive. So, once again, speaking in general, that it causes young people are being a bit hesitant to become farmers. Perhaps I can think of something more later on. Well, it's clear that the generational challenge is the most dangerous for us today, for not only agriculture, but many sectors, because there's no children anymore, no babies are being born. I think that's a big problem. And another problem that we have is the connection between the authorities and the farmers, because many times there's only a lot of red tape, paperwork to be filled out, which might have caused problems where the authorities no longer understand that the soil is actually green. So that's caused us a lot of problems. So the disconnection or the lack of connection between authorities and farmers is a big problem. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. Sorry, just the last one. One of our challenges is that we have the responsibility of feeding our society, and we have to do it in a sustainable way. And the problem is that society only consumes more and more. It keeps consuming, but it doesn't do that in a sustainable way because it doesn't want to pay the price, and also because it can't pay the price. We always want to be healthier, but we can't really afford this luxury. So I believe that we have to think about a more sustainable agriculture, but without losing the amount of production. Yes. Just last rounds. So we have generational replacements and la forma de vivir, the way of life, profitability. So this lack of connection between the authorities and the field, those I think are the biggest challenge. And lastly, that we want to feed society with high quality products, but financially that's not always possible. And as Eva said, there's not always a cutting room available. So those 5 points, is there anything you'd like to add to that? Bruno, a small thought about what you're talking about. We're talking about generational replacement and also starting from scratch, which is really difficult. Access to soil is very difficult. So land is very much owned by only a select group of people, so prices go up. Also, the authorities aren't taking the correct way, and it's very difficult to regenerate soil that could get out of hand even without you being able to do something about it. So I think that's very important to think about. And another point, that it's not the same being a small farmer or a smallholder or tenants, as we've seen in France, there should be a food artisan law that has this, that all the farmers have the same obligations, and that's not possible because if you're only a smallholder instead of a big industrial participant in the market. Anyone else? We'll have to be quick because otherwise they'll... I'd like to ask all three of you a question. You are cases, or you have cases where it was actually a success, this transition. How do you think you could be an example for other producers to actually do the same? Because I think people in the field actually trust their colleagues in the field more than someone of the authorities. How do you think you could be an example or a role model? And something else I'd like to say to you is related to what Félix said about consumers. There was an inquiry a few years ago, and it turns out that in Madrid and Basque Country, people spend very different amounts on food in those two communities. So people prefer to spend their money on food or clothes or technology instead of on food. Do you think they should emphasize more on locally produced products? There are more questions, yes? The sir over there raised his hand first, and then we'll close the opportunities to ask your questions. I wanted to ask you if you believe that defending the environment of water, land, and food quality, if you believe that you are well compensated with public funding at a national European level, because, for example, here in Castile and León, beets are heavily subsidized. But you're already answering your own question. And someone else wanted to ask something? We'll make use of the fact that the microphone is already there. I'd like to ask Eva, how did you start selling directly? Because she first started to learn about organic farming and then she started selling. So how did you actually go about it? Okay, I've written it down, and then there was another question. This sir over there with the glasses, José María. More than a question, a thought. It's about replacement. One of the ways to resolve this problem, in part, it's not very easy, but we could think about, for example, there was an article published the other day, and it said there is enough money in Europe, but if we keep doing the things we're doing them, then we might as well stop. Today, it's difficult for young people to get closer to the land because you need an enormous you need to transform the product. But one of the ways we could do this is working in corporations. Many thanks. I will repeat the questions. Some of them are for all three of you. How can you be a role model for those future generations? And also, how do you handle consumption? How can you get closer to the final consumer, to the end consumer? And another one, a direct question to Eva about the transition to direct sales. How did you do that? And Jesus asked if you think that your work, your environmental work with those best practices, if that is sufficiently recognized by politics. Would you like to start, Eva? The first one is direct sales. We go to fairs to make sure, and to events, organic events, so people get to know you. And that's how we started, little by little, fattening up one calf and then slaughtering it. Or at least that's what I do. We do it on demand. And I send everything the same day that it's all being cut up. So everything is being used, because everything has to be used. And the other question, I believe that if we're talking about organic, I open my doors wide to them. I can explain everything the way I do it, because we're not all working in the same way. But everyone who wants to learn, look for someone who can actually teach you. I did a course in Salamanca. We had tutors there. We had people who were monitoring us, and they showed us their farms. And you have to try to get trained. And I think that the problem with the future generations is that they don't see any profitability. So we have to help them, because another question is also they don't want to open up their minds and see that things can be done in a different way. Because things have been done in a certain way for centuries doesn't mean that they have to still be done in that same way. So if you don't open up your mind and you don't listen and you have this tunnel vision, then it's difficult to be profitable. And I don't think that young people can actually see that it could be a way of life. And it's difficult. It's quite enslaving to be working with the animals So if it's not profitable and your social status is not up to scratch, then it's very difficult. There are aids now for organic farming. Yes, might be compensating, but on the other hand, nowadays many people are entering into organic and doing things simply because of the aids, because of the financial aids, and I think it's something that should be more socially directed. And something else I'd like to say is that you have to start educating from schools. So the Ministry of Education and Schooling has an important part there to show those little children where food is actually coming from. It's not coming from the supermarket. So it's about quality, it's about labeling as well. So it's very difficult to eat healthy and of high quality if you don't know from the beginning, from childhood, what you're actually eating. Yes, one of the things that you asked is about being a role model. I know quite a lot of people. I don't think there's about not even 20% of people here present is actual farmers. But I think you, as farmers, should be here as well. I'm here, I comply, but everyone should think about their own interest. What about value of food? I'm flabbergasted when I see that people have homes without a kitchen. I know there are open kitchen and you can't really fry sardines there or like a little lamb, but it's definitely a tendency there. There's a trend there. We will lose kitchens in our homes in the next 50 years, and that will also lead to even more dissociation between the reality as we have it in the fields and society. So everything will be microwaved, and then aids, financial aids. Yes and no. I started before with a different presentation. I get a lot of financial aids. Society thinks that I get a lot of aids. I think that my work is not paid properly. I think it's not. Mostly because value or price of the products that I produce, it's quite artificial. Well, no, it's real because it's a free market, but it's very much conditioned by political questions that have nothing to do with society. And you've started about olive trees. There are stupidities like, for example, last year I started putting in fruit trees, etc. And all that will be punished because, according to the PAC, are taking away my land. And the only thing I want is that officials and the authorities and for someone who's managing public funding, I don't want people doing strange things that define whether I actually comply or not. So that's what I wanted to say. Eduardo, just 1 minute. I'm going to be positive. I work a lot with young people. Well, no, not that much because there's not that many. There were a few boys and girls that were coming to work and they came to my farm. I told them the negative parts, the positive parts. And they also participate in Cultiva. They came to my home and we do things. I'm really proud. But I get fulfilled by being with those young people. So I think there will be new farmers. But the other things... Okay, no more questions.